What happens when the literal end of the world is interrupted by a bounty hunter trying to collect a petty 500 gold pieces?
I mean, it sounds like a joke, right?
It really does. The sky is falling.
Yeah.
Demonic generals are tearing apart the fabric of reality. And somewhere in the middle of all that apocalyptic dread, someone is checking a wanted poster.
Just to see if they can make a quick buck off the guy trying to save them.
Exactly. And welcome to the deep dive. We are stepping back into the epic Apocalypse Beckons storyline today, specifically zeroing in on scene 27.
Right, from embers to frost.
Yeah. And to truly grasp the sheer mind-bending pivot that happens in this sequence, we have to orient you, the listener, in the immediate aftermath of a total cataclysm.
It highlights a really fascinating and honestly often ignored aspect of crisis.
What do you mean?
Well, the end of the world doesn't automatically erase everyone's petty grudges,
Oh, yeah.
right? Or their debts or their personal vendettas. People don't just magically become noble because the stakes are suddenly global.
Oh, definitely not.
They drag all their messy, complicated baggage right to the edge of the abyss with them. So imagine standing in a city where the sky itself looks like an open wound.
The end of days clock isn't just ticking anymore. The alarm is ringing.
Exactly. Reality is actively being consumed by a greater demon named Gormak and his lieutenants as generals of the apocalypse.
And standing in the way of that absolute annihilation is our core fellowship of heroes. This group of individuals, inexplicably bound together by a mysterious, apocalyptic, purple glowing magic.
Right, and when we catch up with them here, they have just survived the forge.
They are standing in the smoldering ruins of the volcanic pirate city of Ashwillow. I mean, they just pulled off the impossible.
By the absolute skin of their teeth.
Yeah. They managed to shatter the monstrous gargantuan construct known as the Hand of Gormak. But the cost, the physical and magical cost of that victory was astronomical.
They are completely hollowed out, they're battered, they're bleeding, and their magical reserves are just running on fumes.
And the destruction of the Hand of Gormak didn't suddenly bring peace and sunshine back to Ashwillow either.
Oh no, it created a massive power vacuum.
Right.
So the city around them has essentially descended into this mob-scale, chaotic urban warfare.
Which brings us to the core of what we're unpacking today for you. We're going to follow this battered fellowship as they are forced to make a seemingly impossible transition.
It's a brutal one.
We're tracking them from the chaotic, fiery, sweltering urban war zone of Ashwillow through a clandestine portal and directly into Kolavak.
Which is a freezing, eerily silent northern city populated by the mind-controlled.
Yeah, we're going to dig into the brutal tactical decisions they have to make. We'll look at the highly conflicted new allies introduced to the board and a shocking mid-battle twist that strips one of their most powerful heroes of the very foundation of his reality.
It is the ultimate test of structural integrity for this group. Think about it like when you take a piece of raw steel, heat it in a roaring forge, and then plunge it directly into ice-cold water.
Right, crunching it.
Exactly. The rapid cooling locks the crystalline structure of the metal into place. It hardens it. But if there's even a microscopic flaw in that metal, like a hairline fracture or a hidden weakness, the sheer shock of going from extreme fire to extreme ice won't harden the steel.
It will shatter it.
It will completely shatter it.
So let's see who shatters. We start in the immediate aftermath of the fall of the Iron Crown Fortress in Ashwillow.
Right.
Our core group, Welsees the Dwarven Paladin, Aaron the Human Ranger, Atenemus the Half-Elf Warlock, and Zora the High Elf Sorcerer, they've retreated to the hideout of the Wave Guild, which is a local smuggling syndicate.
The sensory details of this moment are just suffocating. The air inside this hideout is thick with the scent of ozone and sulfur.
Yeah.
Outside, the sky is glowing with this fitful, angry, volcanic light, and ruthless local warlords are flooding the streets trying to seize control of the city from the remaining fanatical cultists of Gormak.
And the Wave Guild itself isn't celebrating. They are in an absolute panic.
Oh yeah, they're packing up their illicit gear and shoving it through their secret teleportation portals to evacuate before the street moms break their doors down.
And the portal is humming right in front of our heroes. It is an immediate, guaranteed safe escape from a city that is literally tearing itself apart.
Tactically speaking, stepping through that portal is the only logical move. I mean, they achieved their primary objective. The Hand of Gormak is destroyed.
Right.
They have absolutely no obligation to the city of Ashwillow, which is a city composed primarily of pirates and criminals anyway. Survival dictates they leave.
But they don't. And they don't because of the sheer weight of the prophecy binding them.
When blood of the willing stains the stone and hand of the sworn strikes true.
The gate of the bound shall rend.
Yeah.
Yeah. They know the cosmic stakes. Taking out one general in one city doesn't stop the end of the world.
Not even close.
Gormak is a global threat.
Yeah.
And 4 battered heroes cannot fight a global war. They need an army.
And amidst the chaos of the battle for the Iron Crown, Aaron picked up a crucial piece of intelligence.
Oh, right. The legendary pirate queen, Toxana, is currently locked away in the local subterranean prisons.
Which forces this agonizing moral and tactical crossroads. Do you take the portal to safety, or do you march back out into a smoke-choked city currently gripped by a civil war to find a Goliath pirate queen and beg for an alliance?
And Welsies, Aaron, and Atenimus choose to plunge back into the fire.
And we really need to pause here and examine Welsies because this decision is tearing him apart on a fundamental mechanical level.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Welsies is a dwarven paladin sworn to the Oath of Vengeance.
Right. He is the vanguard, the guy who summons a spectral warhorse and charges into battle, swinging a glowing divine great axe named C3PO.
But paladin magic isn't like, a wizard's magic. A wizard studies a book to cast a spell.
No, a paladin's magic is entirely fueled by their conviction. It is powered by absolute, unwavering moral certainty.
And Welsies has zero moral certainty about allying with Paris.
No.
If we look back at the history established during their earlier sea voyage, Welsies interrogated a captive pirate, Admiral Jack Windbeard. And during that interrogation, a horrific piece of history came to light.
It's so dark. Generations ago, the pirate guilds of this world consolidated their power by aligning with the cult of Gormak.
Right.
And any pirate family that refused to join this demonic alliance was systematically purged.
Eradicated, erased from history.
Exactly.
And Welsies learned that his own family was one of those purged bloodlines. His ancestors were slaughtered by pirates for refusing to serve the very demon he is currently trying to stop.
So, to Welsies, pirates aren't just criminals. They are the vile, treacherous scum who murdered his lineage in the name of a dark god.
His Oath of Vengeance practically demands he execute every pirate he sees.
Exactly. The psychological burden here is immense. If a paladin violates their oath, if they act against their core tenets, their connection to their divine magic can literally sputter and die. But the apocalyptic scale of Gormak's threat is forcing him into a terrifying compromise. He has to swallow his generational trauma, ignore his righteous fury, and seek an alliance with the very faction that destroyed his family.
All because reality itself is collapsing.
Yeah, it's brilliant character development.
So swallowing all that bile, Welsies leads Aaron and Atenimus back into the mob-scale street fighting.
They fight their way down into the subterranean assault on the prison, reinforce the remaining loyalist guards, and finally find her, Queen Toxana.
And she is the farthest thing from a damsel in distress.
Oh, completely. Toxana is a Goliath barbarian and a swashbuckler rogue. Physically, she is larger than life, just a towering fetish of muscle and kinetic energy.
And culturally, she was born in the high mountain peaks, but abandoned the rigid, tradition-bound life of her Goliath tribe because she craved absolute freedom.
Right. She views laws, treaties, and prophecies as the inventions of weak men trying to control the strong. To Toxana, true authority is charting your own course, and she respects nothing but raw, undeniable physical power.
So imagine the scene for a second. Welsies, carrying the cosmic weight of this apocalyptic prophecy, stands before this towering Goliath and tries to explain the gravity of the situation.
Good luck with that.
Right. He brings up the shattered veil, the demonic incursions, the literal end of the world.
Yeah.
And Toxana's reaction, she laughs in his face, a booming, derisive laugh.
She dismisses the ancient prophecy as the senseless wailing of crying babies.
She then casually snaps the lock off her own cell door, storms out, and begins rallying the other prisoners to take her city back by force.
She is entirely insulated from the cosmic stakes. Her worldview is incredibly narrow but intensely practical. She cares about her sovereignty, her immediate territory, and her fleet.
The end of the world is tomorrow's problem. Today, she needs to reclaim her throne from the warlords.
So, after the immediate fighting dies down and Toxana has established a foothold in the ruins of her reclamation, the party has to actually negotiate with her.
Because they desperately need her resources, her ships, her army. And this brings up Atenimus.
Right. Atenimus is a half-elf warlock, and traditionally, he is the undisputed face of this party. He is the silver-tongued diplomat.
Yeah, he's successfully used his charm to broker complex treaties with xenophobic merfolk. He haggled down the price of a fully crewed pirate-hunting galleon.
He even walked into a magical forest and successfully gambled with face-bright creatures who literally trade in trickery. He knows how to read a room and play the angles.
So Atenemus steps up, flashing his signature smile, ready to smooth talk the Pirate Queen. And he crashes and burns spectacularly.
It is a complete and total failure of diplomacy.
I love this detail so much because it makes so much sense when you look at who he's talking to. I mean, trying to use witty, flippant persuasion on Toxana is like trying to negotiate with a hurricane using a well-crafted legal contract.
That's a great analogy.
The hurricane doesn't care about your clauses, and Toxana doesn't care about your charm. She is a force of nature. Charismatic words bounce right off her impenetrable wall of arrogance.
The interaction is described as quickly degrading into a cold transaction of necessity. Atenemus's failure to move her with charm forces the team into a hard, uncomfortable barter.
Which kind of shifts the tone of the whole campaign, doesn't it?
It really does. It signals to you, the audience, that the game has changed. Our heroes are no longer dealing with minor local officials or easily manipulated merchants.
They are dealing with entrenched monarchs and ruthless warlords.
Right. The stakes are global, and simple charm is no longer sufficient capital. They have to prove their worth through leverage, utility, and action.
So they managed to secure this incredibly fragile, highly transactional alliance in the South. They have the Pirate Queen sort of pointed in the same general direction as them.
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly. But as they look at the global map of this unfolding war, they realize they can't just blindly march their entire force toward their next major objective. They have to secure their flanks.
And this leads to what is arguably the most controversial tactical decision in the entire campaign. They deliberately split the Marty.
Which, if you know anything about adventuring logic, is universally considered the fastest way to get everyone killed.
No, we're split the party. It's a fundamental rule of survival.
But here, they orchestrate the departure of a dedicated reconnaissance team, sending them back into the treacherous, hallucinogenic woodlands of Mistwood Vale.
Let's look at who they send on this mission. It is a wildly eclectic powerhouse of their allies.
Okay, let's hear the roster.
You have Kukita, an incredibly perceptive, proactive bird race swordsman. You have Zora, the high elf sorcerer, whose magic is entirely chaotic and unpredictable.
Right.
You have Azuriel, a heavily armored dragonborn fighter they recently liberated from a fire giant forge. You have Tucker, a grim, eagle-eyed human ranger and marksman. And finally, Jebediah Brown, a human barbarian whose primary method of problem-solving is raging into a physical frenzy.
No, wait. I have to stop you there.
Sure. What is it?
Because I look at this team composition and I look at their mission, and it makes absolutely zero sense to me.
How so?
The mission is defined as shadow work. It's supposed to be clandestine stealth, reconnaissance, and surveillance. They are trying to sneak up on a creature called the Eye. And they send a wildly unpredictable wild magic sorcerer and a screaming barbarian. That's like taping a flashbang to a ninja and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
How is this a good tactical move?
It seems counterintuitive, I agree, but you have to analyze what they are actually walking into and what they are hunting.
Okay, lay it out for me.
Mistwood Vale is not just a forest. It is an active nightmare zone. In previous encounters, the party found the forest choked with this unnatural cloying fog that physically felt like wading through marshmallow.
Oh, that sounds awful.
The woods are infested with far realm aberrations known as whistlers. These are 9-foot-tall, featureless gray stalkers with disproportionately long limbs that emit psychic frequencies causing agonizing pain and temporary madness.
And above it all, a spectral projection called the Watcher was literally beaming psychic threats into their minds.
Right. It's a zone of psychological terror, and their target, the Eye, is a beholder. If we look at the mechanics of a beholder, it is a creature of absolute paranoia. It possesses a massive central eye that projects a continuous anti-magic cone, literally turning off reality and spellcasting wherever it looks.
Wow.
And its body is covered in smaller eye stalks, each capable of firing different devastating magical rays, disintegration, petrification, death. You cannot sneak up on a beholder using conventional magical invisibility or simple stealth because it literally sees from every angle and nullifies magic.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
You don't send a traditional stealth team against a creature that negates the very concept of stealth. You send chaos.
So that's why they send Zora and Jebediah.
Exactly. Zora's wild magic is one of the few arcane forces erratic enough that it might behave unpredictably within an anti-magic cone. And Jebediah's barbarian rage is a purely physical, non-magical enhancement that ignores the psychological fear effects of the whistlers.
They aren't trying to sneak through the woods quietly. They are a specialized, highly resilient insertion team designed to survive the psychic and anti-magic environment long enough to map the enemy's positions.
It makes sense, right? It's an incredibly aggressive form of reconnaissance.
It really is. And it demonstrates remarkable military maturity from the core group.
They aren't just reacting to monsters anymore. They recognize that if they march their main force against the next target while leaving the eye unchecked in the east, they will be flanked and destroyed.
They are thinking like generals, deploying specialized assets to gather intelligence so that when the main force eventually strikes, they do so with overwhelming informed advantage.
Splitting the party here isn't arrogant. It's a grim necessity of waging a multi-front war.
All right, so the recon team is deployed into the nightmare fog of the forests. That leaves our primary battered trio Welsies, Aaron, and Atenimus.
Right. They finally step off the sweltering streets of Ashwillow, step through the Wave Guild's clandestine portal, and leave the volcanic heat behind.
And this transition is where the structural shock truly hits.
The physical mechanics of instantaneous portal travel are brutal under the best of circumstances. But here, the atmospheric pressure change alone is staggering.
The air in the volcanic caldera of Ashwillow is superheated, expanding, full of sulfur and ash.
When they step through the portal, they are violently wrenched into the biting, crystalline, compressed chill of the northern city of Kolavak.
The temperature plummets instantly to below zero. It's a complete thermal shock. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a raging, deafening heavy metal mosh pit.
Fire is blasting from the stage. Thousands of people are screaming. The bass is vibrating the teeth in your skull. The air is suffocatingly hot.
And then, in a fraction of a second, you are teleported into a subterranean meat locker. The air is freezing, your sweat instantly turns to ice on your skin, and it is completely, utterly, terrifyingly silent.
And that silence in Kolavak is heavy. It isn't peaceful. It's oppressive. The visceral, bloody street fighting of Ashwillow is gone. Instead, Kolavak is gripped by an eerie, unnatural stillness.
The local inhabitants aren't fighting. They aren't fleeing. They move like hollow shells. You walk down the frozen streets and you see people sweeping the snow, but their eyes are completely glazed over.
They are operating in a daze of zombified labor. They perform their daily duties with absolute, robotic disregard for the world around them. It is a city of sleepwalkers.
And the heroes quickly discover the source of this communal lobotomy. They seek shelter in a dimly lit local tavern to escape the biting cold, and the barkeep gives them a chilling warning.
He tells them, under no circumstances should they listen to the wind outside. He tells them to keep their ears plugged with thick wax.
Because Gormak's general in the north isn't an army or a monster. It is an entity known only as the Voice.
The Voice. We actually got a horrifying preview of this entity from an intelligence-gathering mission much earlier in the campaign. The Voice is referred to as the Mouth of Gormak.
It doesn't march an army into your city. It hides in the frozen peaks and simply speaks.
The voices echo down from the mountains, carrying on the wind, and its singular goal is to systematically erode the minds of the populace with despair and lies.
We saw it in a vision back in Port Zarford. The party had a shared hallucination where they saw the Voice standing on a jagged obsidian ridge in the freezing north.
It was literally consuming the living and regurgitating them as shadow soldiers called the Hollowed, while an entire village below them chanted in a mindless, synchronized drone.
This represents a fundamental, terrifying shift in the nature of the war they are fighting. Think about what they just left. In Ashwillow, they fought the Hand.
Right, the Hand was a gargantuan armored giant. It represented physical enforcement, blunt force trauma, explosive destruction. It was a battle of muscle, steel, and artillery magic.
You can hit a giant with an axe. You can shoot it with an arrow. But in Kolavak, you cannot hit a whisper with an axe. You cannot shoot a rumor.
The enemy here is attacking the mind. The psychological dread replacing physical combat requires an entirely different tactical approach.
And this is where the genius of their allies comes into play. Because in this freezing, eerie environment, where the very wind is actively trying to brainwash you, our heroes find a beacon of hope inside that tavern.
And it comes in the form of a familiar face who has spent the last several weeks brilliantly using the apocalypse to bake up a resistance network.
I'm so glad we get to talk about Debbie again. Debbie is a high elf wizard, and she is easily one of the most uniquely utilized characters in this entire story.
Oh, absolutely. As a wizard, she specializes in highly destructive area of effect evocations. She can casually throw acid splashes and detonate fireballs that can clear a room.
But her true passion, the driving force behind her entire life, is baking.
It is such a fascinating juxtaposition. Her adventuring career didn't start because of a quest for power or a tragic backstory. It started because she wanted to collect exotic recipes and rare ingredients to prove her worth to her world-renowned, highly snobbish culinary family back in Nestle Shade.
Which, remarkably, she succeeded in doing by winning a high-stakes family cook-off. She blends this domestic, nurturing desire to feed people with the capacity to unleash devastating, arcane destruction.
And what she has done in the North while the rest of the party was fighting pirates is nothing short of a masterclass in covert operations.
Debbie established a clandestine ingredient network across the realm.
Let's break down the mechanics of how brilliant that is. On paper, to any local authorities or cultist inspectors, Debbie is just an eccentric elven baker trying to source rare spices and flour shipments.
But she is using the infrastructure of the culinary trade as an encrypted espionage network.
Think about it. You can hide coded messages in the ledger of a spice merchant. You can smuggle rebel leaders in empty flour barrels.
You can use yeast cultures to cultivate specific, localized magical molds that act as listening devices.
You can use the pungent smell of exotic baking spices to mask the scent of potent spellcasting components from magical sniffers.
She has weaponized the culinary arts to gather allies and intelligence right under the noses of Gormak's forces. And her magical aptitude is equally vital to understanding the threat in Kolavak.
Right. When the party arrives, Debbie is the one who provides the terrifying sensory confirmation of what the voice actually is.
She doesn't just feel the physical cold of the northern winds. She uses her arcane senses to analyze it.
And she detects a wash of psychic despair and death that is so thick it literally reeks to her of rotting meat. She can smell the corruption of the mind.
But Debbie hasn't just been analyzing the wind and moving flour. She has been gathering people. Through her ingredient network, she has managed to locate and recruit 3 new bearers of the apocalyptic purple mark.
3 new chosen ones who have been inexplicably drawn to the freezing north.
And we need to spend some serious time breaking down this new squad because the interpersonal dynamics sitting at this tavern table are incredibly volatile.
It is a powder keg. Let's start with Robin Cade. She is a human rogue, specifically trained as a master assassin.
Her mechanical background grants her an ability called Supreme Sneak, which effectively makes her a ghost in the shadows.
She moves without sound, strikes without warning, and disappears. But what makes her presence at this table so incredible is the dramatic irony she brings with her.
Oh, this is peak tension. According to the background lore, Robin Cade operates within a highly clandestine group of assassins, and currently tucked away in her gear is an active wanted poster for none other than Aaron, our human ranger who is sitting right across from her.
The bounty on Aaron's head is substantial. 500 gold pieces dead or 2,000 gold pieces alive.
The charge. Starting a war with the mountain orcs in Mistwood Vale.
And we know the context of that bounty, which makes it even more tragic. Aaron didn't maliciously start a war. His father was permanently crippled by a mountain orc war party when Aaron was young, which seeded a deep, understandable hatred for them.
Years later, when Aaron caught a trespassing war party on his lands, he killed them. The local, highly bureaucratic council accused him of inciting a larger conflict to cover their own diplomatic failures.
Aaron eventually proved his innocence by demonstrating that the attacking orcs were using mismatched fletching on their arrows, proving it was a rogue faction trying to frame him.
But clearly the bureaucratic wheels turned slowly. The bounty was never officially rescinded in the criminal underworld.
Or Robin simply hasn't received the updated memo and she doesn't care. A bounty is a bounty.
So you have this intense, immediate, unspoken tension in the room. You have an elite assassin and her high-value target forced to sit at the same table, drink the same ale, and share the same apocalyptic prophecy.
It requires an incredible amount of discipline from both of them to prioritize the abstract concept of saving the world over a lucrative payday or personal survival.
Okay, moving down the table, next we have Percy Jin. Percy is a human monk, highly observant and incredibly fast.
The mechanics of his class give him a preternatural walking speed and the ability to channel his internal Kessel to deliver stunning, paralyzing strikes.
But what really sets Percy apart is his signature weapon, the Kyoketsu Shogi.
It is a highly specialized, incredibly difficult weapon to master. It is essentially a rope dagger, a sharp hooked blade attached to a long, durable length of rope or chain, often counterbalanced with a heavy weighted ring at the other end.
Explain the physics of fighting with something like that, because it's not just swinging a sword.
Not at all. It relies on fluid dynamics and momentum. Percy doesn't just stab, he controls space.
Like how?
He can throw the weighted ring to entangle an enemy's legs, use the rope to vault off a wall, and then snap the blade forward to strike from 15 feet away.
Wow.
He can grapple, climb, disarm, and perform sweeping, multi-range attacks that constantly keep his opponents off balance. In a tight, chaotic fight, a master of the Kyoketsu Shuge is practically untouchable.
It makes him an incredibly unpredictable combatant. And finally, rounding out the new trio is Dean Scotch. Dean is Goliath fighter.
Now, we just talked about Toxana, so we know Goliaths are massive, imposing figures deeply tied to brutal mountain environments.
But Dean is unique even among Goliaths. He's completely mute. He communicates entirely through telepathy and silent sign language.
Which, from a tactical standpoint, is an extraordinary asset. Think about a chaotic battlefield. The clash of steel, the roar of magic, the screams of the wounded. Communication breaks down instantly.
But Dean can coordinate complex maneuvers, warn of flanking attacks, and sink his strikes directly into the minds of his allies without ever making a sound. He is a silent avalanche.
And when he hits with a devastating greatsword triple strike.
And I want to pause here and look at this entire group sitting in the tavern, because this raises a really unsettling question about the nature of this purple mark they all share.
What do you mean?
We've been talking about it as this grand destiny, this prophecy magic, drawing heroes together to save reality. But look at who it is drawing together. You have a dwarven paladin sworn to a rigid oath of vengeance against criminals. You have a ranger with a massive criminal bounty on his head. You have a warlock whose soul is contractually bound to a demon. You have an elven wizard who runs a bakery espionage ring.
It's quite the mix.
You have an assassin holding the ranger's bounty. You have a rope dagger monk and a telepathic Goliath. Under any normal, rational circumstances, these people would never share a drink.
If they crossed paths, they would likely kill each other over conflicting ideologies or bounties.
You're suggesting the purple mark isn't just a beacon. It's a form of coercion.
I'm saying it feels like a parasite. It is fundamentally overriding their free will. Aaron's survival instincts should be screaming at him to shoot the assassins sitting across from him.
Robin's training should be demanding she collect the 2,000 gold pieces sitting within arm's reach.
Wellesley should be arresting half the table. But this purple magic is suppressing their natural behaviors, forcing them into a desperate alliance.
It's the universe saying, I don't care about your drama, your bounties, or your oaths. Your autonomy is suspended until the apocalypse is canceled.
In a city where they are fighting the voice to stop mind erosion, aren't they being fundamentally manipulated by the very magic supposedly saving them?
That is a terrifying, deeply philosophical read on the situation. It suggests that survival at this scale requires a sacrifice of individual autonomy.
The prophecy doesn't care about their personal narratives. It only cares about the mathematical probability of their combined skills defeating Gormak.
Exactly. And unfortunately, the universe doesn't give them much time to debate the philosophy of free will, because the fragile, tense piece of their introductions inside that tavern is violently, abruptly shattered before anyone can even process the new team dynamics.
The eerie, unnatural silence of Kolavak is broken. Piercing screams erupt from the frozen, snow-packed streets right outside the tavern doors.
And I love how the narrative handles the reaction here. Aaron, the ranger, is the very first one to move. Despite the cosmic stakes, the philosophical debates, and the complex diplomacy they've been engaged in, Aaron is fundamentally a pragmatic survivor and a hunter.
He doesn't wait for a consensus. He doesn't ask for a plan. He kicks open the tavern doors, his magical oath bow already thrumming with tension in his hands.
And what he sees in the streets is a slaughter. The sources describe two monstrous beasts rampaging through the quarter. But these aren't normal wolves or bears.
They are 9 feet tall, gray-skinned, over-muscled monstrosities with rending teeth, and they are tearing through the dazed, defenseless drone citizens of Kolavak like vicious hounds in a sheep pen.
And the most horrifying part, the citizens aren't even defending themselves.
Their minds have been so thoroughly eroded by the whispers of the voice that they just stand there, continuing to sweep the snow or stare blankly at the walls while these beasts literally tear them apart. It is an absolute massacre.
But the heroes don't hesitate. They pour out of the tavern, and we get to see the combined combat mechanics of the old and new team instantly sync up.
Let's break this combat down, because it is a brutal showcase of capability. Aaron is instantly providing lethal overwatch. He uses his ranger abilities to magically mark the first gray beast as his hated foe.
Explain how that mechanic works.
It's a deep, innate focus. Aaron taps into his extensive knowledge of tracking and anatomy to pinpoint the exact structural weaknesses of that specific creature type.
It guides his aim, allowing his arrows to bypass thick hide and muscle to strike vital organs with devastating enhanced precision.
His arrows hiss through the freezing air and bury themselves to the fletching in the beast's neck.
Welsies is right behind him, charging into the frigid fray atop his summoned spectral warhorse. Think about the resilience of this paladin. He just survived a near-death experience exploding an iron giant inside a volcano.
He compromised his deepest moral beliefs to negotiate with a pirate.
And now he is right back on the front line in the freezing snow. His dwarven axe C-3PO flares with blinding divine wrath, and he slams a crushing smite into the second beast.
And this is where the new allies prove they belong at this table. Percy Jin, the monk, blurs into motion. He channels his ki to push his physiology beyond normal human limits, closing a 40-foot gap almost instantly.
He unleashes a blinding flurry of unarmed strikes, hammering the beast Aaron just marked, targeting nerve clusters and joints with rapid-fire precision.
And then comes the avalanche. Dean Scotch, the silent Goliath, crashes into the second beast right alongside Welsies. Dean delivers his signature brutal greatsword triple strike. But he doesn't stop there. He utilizes an ability called an action surge.
Let's talk about the biological reality of an action surge for a Goliath in combat. It isn't magic.
No, it is Dean deliberately pushing his cardiovascular and muscular systems far past their safe breaking point. He forces his heart to pump a massive, damaging surge of oxygen-rich blood into his muscles, tearing microfibers to buy himself 3 seconds of godlike speed and power.
He delivers the first 3 massive greatsword swings, forces his body to reset instantly, and delivers another 3 consecutive, perfectly aimed strikes, causing massive critical damage to the beast.
The physical might of this combined party is simply overwhelming. Between Wellesley's divine smites, Aaron's anatomical precision, Percy's chi-fueled speed, and Dean's sheer body-breaking power, the beasts are being dismantled in seconds.
But this entire combat sequence, it is a narrative misdirection. The true focal point of this scene, the real horror, isn't the physical battle against the hounds. It is what is happening in the back line.
It's what happens to Atenimus.
Here is the shocking twist that redefines the entire campaign. Atenimus, the warlock, moves into position. Throughout every battle we have discussed, from the pirate ships to the volcanic forge, Atenimus has been the reliable magical artillery.
When things get tough, he raises his hands and unleashes his signature, devastating eldritch blasts, or he shatters the battlefield with area denial magic. He is the heavy ordnance.
So he steps out into the snow. He levels his hands at the great beasts. He calls upon his power, and absolutely nothing happens.
No sparks, no purple glow, nothing. Instead of unleashing magic, he grabs his head. He screams in absolute agony, and he collapses to his knees in the freezing snow.
The narrative bomb dropped right here is described as the silence of the warlock's magic. And to understand the gravity of this, we have to deeply understand the mechanical source of Atenimus's power.
He is not a wizard like Debbie. He didn't spend decades reading dusty tomes to understand the manipulation of the arcane weave.
And he isn't a sorcerer like Zora, who was born with magic mutating in her blood. Atenimus's power is derived entirely from a pact.
A contract. It comes from a lesser demon patron. It is a transactional relationship. He was granted immense cosmic power in exchange for his service.
And we know from previous narrative threads that this patron has been growing increasingly demanding, erratic, and cruel.
In the visions at Port Zarford, this patron explicitly ordered Atenimus to murder a petty thief just to retrieve a magical earring. The patron even commanded him to kill one of his fellow chosen ones.
It is a dark, abusive, deeply controlling relationship. But it is the absolute, unquestionable foundation of his combat effectiveness.
Right. Think of warlock magic not as a battery that Atenimus carries around inside himself. Think of it as a streaming service. Atenimus doesn't own the movies, he doesn't own the magic.
He is just accessing it via a demonic Wi-Fi connection. He points his finger, sends a request to the patron, and the patron streams the eldritch blast through him into reality.
And right here, right now, in the critical moment of facing the forces of Gormak's general in Kolavak, that patron just hit cancel subscription. The connection is abruptly, violently severed.
I want you to truly imagine the existential terror of this moment. Imagine you are a fighter pilot. You are in the middle of a screaming high-G dogfight.
You have an enemy on your tail, you lock on, you pull the trigger on your flight stick, and suddenly your screens go completely blank.
You realize that your entire weapon system, your navigation, your radar, your thrusters, all of it has just been remotely uninstalled by the manufacturer mid-flight.
You aren't just out of ammo. You haven't just jammed a gun. The fundamental mechanism that allows you to interact with reality, the core of your identity as a pilot, has abandoned you while you are plummeting toward the Earth.
That is precisely the psychological trauma Atenemus is experiencing. He is left completely defenseless, clutching his head in the snow, realizing that the source of his reality has abandoned him in the middle of an active apocalypse.
Oh.
All the swagger, all the charm, all the artillery, gone in a fraction of a second.
The physical battle in the strait ends quickly. The Greyhounds are easily defeated by the overwhelming physical might of the new and old heroes working together.
But the psychological damage inflicted on the party is immeasurable. The physical threat is bleeding out on the snow, but the existential threat to the party's survival has just skyrocketed.
Which brings us to the broader implications of this scene, and summarizing the massive pivot that Scene 27 truly represents for the Apocalypse Beckons storyline.
This scene changes the rules of the entire game. Our heroes have officially traded the physical, blistering, straightforward fire of Ashwillow for the psychological, creeping, mind-altering ice of Kolavak.
The nature of the war has shifted from brute force and explosive destruction to mental erosion and psychological warfare.
On paper, they have gained incredible new tactical assets. They added a stealthy assassin capable of bypassing any security, a preternaturally fast monk who controls the battlefield with fluid momentum, and a telepathic Goliath juggernaut who can silently orchestrate combat.
Their capacity for physical violence is higher than it has ever been.
But they have lost the magical artillery and arguably the diplomatic face of their group. They are entering a theater of war where the enemy, the voice, explicitly attacks the mind.
And the one character whose mind was linked to a vast demonic power source has just been abruptly, violently unplugged.
Looking ahead, the reality facing the Fellowship is incredibly grim. They are currently huddled in Kolavak, but they know they cannot stay there.
They must march further north, deep into the freezing, corrupted mountains toward the city of Chronopolis. They have to face the source of this mental decay, Gormak's general, the Voice, directly.
They have to stop this. The Voice before the entire Northern Hemisphere is mind-wiped, stripped of its free will, and turned into hollow chanting drones marching for a demon god.
And they have to figure out how to do it with a magic user who is suddenly, terrifyingly powerless. Atenemus has to relearn who he is without his patron while walking into a psychological meat grinder.
Which leaves us with a deep, lingering question. A final provocative thought to mull over as we close the book on Scene 27.
Why now? Think about the timing.
Atenemus's demon patron deliberately severed their connection right at the exact moment they stepped through the portal and entered the territory of the Voice. It wasn't a slow fade.
It was an immediate severing upon arrival in the north. What does that imply about the power dynamics at play?
Is this lesser demon patron actually terrified of Gormak's general? Is the mental corrupting power of the Voice so incredibly potent that even a demon sitting in another dimension fears its own mind being eroded or controlled if the psychic connection to Atenemus remains open?
Did it sever the tie out of self-preservation?
Or is it something infinitely worse? We know the patron is a lesser demon, Gormak is a greater demon, an apocalyptic threat. Has the patron looked at the board, seen the writing on the wall, and realized the heroes are going to lose?
Has it switched sides to join Gormak's apocalypse and cut Atenemus loose as a liability?
And if that is the case, if the demons themselves are starting to abandon the battlefield because they believe the war against Gormak is already lost, what hope do mere mortals have?
The physical fire of the forge couldn't break them. The question now is whether the psychological ice of the north will finally shatter them.
That's all for today's deep dive. Keep that image of the blazing forge and the freezing water in your mind. The quenching has begun. We'll see you next time.